Well, I think it was because of the son that he got impeached, the misdeclaration of the son. And I think I will never do that.
Okay. On that note, I have no more question for Justice Carpio. Thank you, Justice, and good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
Justice Hermosissima, sir.
This good afternoon now.
Good afternoon, Justice.
Most of the decisions written by Justice Tony Carpio brought accolades, but in some cases, Justice Carpio was misunderstood. Well, according to Emerson, to be great is to be misunderstood. I believe that Justice Tony Carpio can bring greatness to the Supreme Court and possibly renewed glory. With that note, thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Hermosissima.
Secretary Mosngi, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chief Justice.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'd like to say it is indeed a personal honor and privilege for me to propound questions to the Chief Justice of the Republic of the Philippines. Chief Justice Carpio, you started law school, and before that you were a graduate of the Ateneo de Manila University, the degree of economics, and then you started your career by entering the University of the Philippines College of Law. You and I were previously students of law. I'm sure we share the dream, the same passion of learning the legal profession in law school. I'm sure you had your own romance with law. But after law school and after passing and topping the bar, I am certain that you entered your legal career with the same zeal of idealism and hope to carve out your own sense of the legal profession. Then you entered the practice of law at namulat kayo sa tunay na mundo ng abogasiya. In the real world, you have staked your claim, you have practiced law as a member of the bar, and you have practiced law as a member of the bench. Now you are in the point of your career, you're aspiring for the post that is the most coveted of any legal practitioner, every legal professional. What is your notion of this? How does the law remain still beautiful in your eyes? What is your sense of right now, the beauty of the law? Has it been corrupted in your eyes after your long practice? Has it remained attractive and alluring to you?
Well, in the Supreme Court, you find the practice of law, if you put it that way, in its purest form, because you decide cases based purely on the law, based on the Constitution and on the statute that complies with the Constitution. And if you decide cases that way, then you have this satisfaction that you are applying the law in its purest form. I have practiced law in the private sector. I have taught law. I have been a legal counsel in the executive department. But I find law in the Supreme Court the best law that I can find, because here you apply the law in its purest form.
Maraming salamat po for that. Chief Justice Carpio, if you recognizing two important concepts in legal parlance, one of which is judicial independence, and the other is judicial interdependence. What do you think is best for the country right now?
Well, these concepts of judicial independence or interdependence of the branches, commingling or merger of powers of different branches, must all be found in the Constitution. And in the Constitution, you have a clear separation of powers. You have the judiciary that will decide what is the law with finality. You have Congress that will promulgate the law, that will enact the law, and you have the executive that will implement the law. But you have also, under the Constitution, an area where there is a check and balance. You have the impeachment power of Congress to check the Supreme Court and the executive. You have the power of appropriation of Congress to limit the expenditure of the executive and the judiciary, and you have the power of the executive to propose to Congress what should be the budget. Congress cannot increase it beyond what is proposed. So here is a merger of powers. Congress is supposed to have the power to appropriate, but it cannot appropriate more than what the executive proposes. Now, the executive is supposed to spend the money, decide how to spend the money, but the judiciary has fiscal autonomy, and the executive must release automatically and regularly the budget of the judiciary. And the judiciary may realign if there is a law. It cannot realign savings without a law. So again, there is a check and balance. So the other concept of interdependence or commingling or merger is actually this check and balance. Then you have the third concept of merger of functions, interdependence of powers. Here in the JBC itself, here in the JBC, you have one representative from Congress, one representative from the executive, one representative from the judiciary. The three branches are sitting together exercising a power, the power to screen out nominees. But they are only screening out. The ultimate power to appoint from the list comes from the president. See, the power of appointment is supposed to be with the president, but this body is sharing it with the president by limiting the choice of the president. And this body is composed of the three branches. But still, we have the regular members of the JBC, you have 4, and they're appointed by the president with the consent of the Commission on Appointments. So it's a power shared again between the executive and the legislative. This is, I think, an example of interdependence, if you want to call it. I would prefer to call it convergence of powers. Still, there is another area of convergence of powers, and that is the budgeting process. And I have mentioned that already. So, whatever you may call it, you call it interdependence, independence, commingling, merger of powers, it must, however, be found in the Constitution.
Maraming salamat po. Just two more, Mr. Chairman, please. One of which is, do you plan, after retirement, do you plan to practice law again, Mr. Chief Justice?
No, after retirement, I plan to teach in the UP College of Law, maybe also in Ateneo de Davao if I have a chance to go back to my hometown.
As a final question, Mr. Chief Justice, we lawyers, we are aware of certain legal and immutable principles, one of which is the presumption of innocence. Another is the presumption of regularity in the performance of public functions. And the third that comes to my mind is the presumption of good faith in all our dealings. If I may solicit your opinion, very respectfully, Mr. Chief Justice, do you